Hey y'all, it's Michael, and so today I thought I would talk to y'all about short stories and the short story collection journey that I have been doing this year. So one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is also to give you the update on that and the reason why I am going to be stopping. So currently right now, the short story collection that I'm reading is The Novel of Ferraro by Giorgio Bassani. This edition is translated by let me find the translation page by Jamie McKendrick. This video won't be about like which ones are my favorite short stories and which ones are my favorite short story collections that I read this year. I'll make that in another video towards the end of the year where I do my favorites of and that type of thing. I have to return this back. And while my library finally got rid of fines, which is awesome, this has to be returned back because it's due. That's just how the cookie crumbles. So there is that. I got good chunk into it, but I'm not gonna finish it in time, just to let y'all know now. It's good from what I read, but I have to give it up, unfortunately. So yeah, there is that. Let me start off by saying this. The reason why I wanted to start reading a short story every single day, as a reader, I love the momentum that I get from short stories. One thing that I noticed from reading a short story every single day, or well, attempting to, and then like not constantly falling behind, is one of my goals this year was to read 1 hour every single day, which is roughly around 31 hours every month. But in conjunction with that was basically to try to read every single day. I am a very habitual person. If you know me in real life, I love when things like are planned and structured. I love that. It's like every day I wake up and I do the same thing getting ready for work, and anytime that gets disturbed, like I have to go get gas or like there's too much traffic, it worries me a little bit because I love it when just things fall into place. I thought reading a short story would help me combat that fatigue that we as readers get sometimes. My reading streak on the Bookly app, and I have been reading every single day now. Granted, some of those were like 10 minutes because I would just like read a short story and I'd be so tired and call it a day and be like done. But I think it really helped me not get the fatigue this year. Yeah, let's talk about a little bit about short stories now. I looked it up. According to my friend Miriam, a short story is defined as an invented prose narrative shorter than a novel, usually dealing with a few characters and aiming at unity of effect and often concentrating on the creation of mood rather than plot. Now, this got me a little bit confused when I started reading short stories because of novellas. Now, novellas were a little bit like iffy for me personally, because like what constitutes as a short story and then what really constitutes as a novella. Now, the definition of novella is one, plural, novelle, a story with a compact and pointed plot. But I think the novella that I am thinking about is number 2, which is a work of fiction intermediate in length and complexity between a short story and a novel. So it was really great for me, but for me anyways, the way I define, and maybe y'all define this differently from how I defined it. And then there's also the conception of like a flash fiction, which is basically like that. And basically a flash fiction or like a flash story is just that. Just for me, it always is more on feeling than anything. I always knew when it was a flash fiction, like bam, done, finished, over, finito. And then a short story, I can feel it, but I think novella is when I really felt it. I was like, oh, this is incredibly long. This is also like on my reading habits, I guess it's a video, but I like to read in increments of 30 minutes, like 30 minutes, take a break, 5 minutes, like I play a little game on my phone and go back to reading. And that's how I've been reading since like for a while, because I realized I can't read like literally there and just like read for an hour straight. There's some I can feel it at the 30-minute mark around there for some odd reason. I don't know what it is, but I start wandering, my mind start wandering, so I always take a break between there. When a novella is starting to like really hit that novella stage is when I can just really feel it. I was like, oh, this is like really a novella, and I can really start feeling it. And I don't know if different readers define or if there's a technical like terminology, like depending on the words, like the word count and whatnot. What really defines a short story, novella, flash fiction, and then a novel is like it like fluctuates. And one thing I also did realize that I don't know if I'm either a fan of or I just don't like it. I think I'm in the middle about it. Is short stories that connect, that would form essentially like a full-on novel. Because I don't know how I felt about them, because since I don't know actually, because now I'm thinking about it. Some of them that I did feel that I read were like the stories connected. They were connected by character wise, but they weren't connected by like a full on story, like a full on like whole narrative type of thing. If you watch any of the reviews for the short story collections that I did, I think it fluctuated because like some of the ones that were connected, I felt a little bit but some of them I thought was like, oh, this is really cool how it like connects through like a setting or a theme or something like that. The noises in this neighborhood, I swear, it's always around this time. That I realized that with the short stories, authors had like, it felt to me as though it was really more free, that they were able to experiment. I found that the short stories that I really, really, really loved and enjoyed were the experimental, weird, bizarre, the science fiction, the fantasy, like those type of short stories where it can just like be like establish something really weird within a short amount of time. I think those were my favorites because they were so much fun in that regard. Like, and while some of them didn't work, recollecting back now, some of them didn't work, but I thought that short stories it was almost like it was a low risk, high reward type of situation. Not every short story had to be great, but the ones that were great, like really stood out. And one thing that I also did realize with the way that short story collections are curated, I thought that was one of the most interesting aspects of reading a short story and then every single day, is because I find that you could start to notice several things that I don't know if it's like the editors that are have more input, or if it was the actual authors of the presentation of the short stories, like which one goes first, which one goes second, and like which one is the mid tier in the middle of the book, which one would close it out. Because I find that the way the collection is arranged really has a lasting effect. It would be almost like putting a strong in the beginning, in the semi-middle would be like okay, in the middle like go punch in, and then the bottom end would probably be something like a little bit strong but not as great, because the ending, I think the last short story really lives an impact, unless it's something like chronological, like unless it's like publication date, like some of the short story collections that I read where I believe some of them were published like publication date, so they had no rearranging. It was just which ones were publicated, which one was published in that time order. So I thought that was really interesting too. And then the bunches, like something with like Eudora Welty that I read, the bunches that the short story collections that were presented, I thought was really interesting. The way that they're ordered were really interesting in the way that you could really see an author's writing strong point, especially when it is chronological publication dates. You can see them almost like improving or like changing, or something that they're experimenting more. The also thing that I also found out is that a lot of booktubers don't read short story collections. I don't see them a lot on booktube, and I've been on booktube for quite a while. I see them every once in a while, but I don't see them as much as obviously fiction. I don't even see them as much as non-fiction. Yeah, so this is just a video just to like spew out my thoughts about my experience reading short stories. If you have any ideas on short stories, if you read a lot of short stories, or a booktuber you can recommend me that reads a lot, I would love to hear it. So yeah, until then, I'll see you guys till next time. Bye.